FCC doesn't govern anything we say, Jeremy. So it's all about what you want people to think of you. And I don't think you care about that. So
well, I do. It just doesn't appear so.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome So welcome everybody. You are at our newest episode of Stories at Sundown, live from Burley Corners in northern Penfield Township, right there at the intersection of 78 and 66. And Jeremy, it's my personal mission to get Burley Corners back on the map, literally. But my guest tonight is Jeremy Andrews, famous for so many things. Right now, still the Chief Excitement Officer at Sprout, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you could come on.
Glad I made it.
Yeah, Jeremy stood me up a couple of times, but yeah. That's okay. I even made a couple of jokes at your expense the second time. So
I rewatched it.
So, okay, cool. All right. Well, Jeremy, thanks for coming. This is going to be fun. I don't know how we're going to keep it to a half an hour, but I am going to get hungry eventually. So we'll keep it short. But I think we should just start off by talking about what you're up to right now, because, I see things in the Enquirer that you've been working on, and you just told me a little bit. So what are you excited about right now?
Well, I'm excited about February 1st and indoor gatherings because we've had a winter axe throwing league planned at the Kellogg Arena, and it looks like we get to start that in maybe February 4th, if all goes well. And we will have Thursday nights at the Kellogg Arena with some yard games and axe throwing. So I'm really excited about that, and excited to see some old friends out and about, safely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've seen articles, but I've never been to an axe throwing event. Shame on me. How did you find it? What is it about it? It sounds pretty obvious. You throw an axe at targets, but what's to it?
Yeah. Well, how I found it, when I was planning my wedding, I was looking for groomsmen gifts, and I had been a groomsman at a few weddings, and I was like, well, I don't want to give everybody a flask or a money clip. I have so many flasks and money clips. What can I give them that's unique? And I came across throwing axes, and I was like, well, that seems like a really awesome gift. And then we started throwing them in my backyard, and a few years later, I started a league per my wife's advice, because I think I was maybe having some winter blues and being cooped up and needed something new to do. And so, we started an axe throwing league in my backyard at my old house on Wabascon Road, and we took it to the Kellogg Arena and Territorial Brewing Company last year. And so when the weather's nice, we're outside at Territorial Brewing Company, and in the winter, we're at the Kellogg Arena. And that'll be moving as into this year. We'll be open 4 days a week starting in April at Territorial Brewing Company. But you come on out to the Kellogg Arena starting February 4th, unless something changes, and we'll be throwing some axes there. But you can also do cornhole and huge knot beer pong and some other kind of yard games.
That sounds really cool. And so what about if someone likes me, I know my way around an axe, but some people don't even know that. Can they walk in and somebody's going to show them the ropes and teach them how to do it?
Absolutely. We all, everybody who through that first year really had almost no experience and no knowledge. And it's became both a group of people that help each other out and learn from each other, and wrap their arms around new people and give them good advice, and to help create good competitors for themselves, I suppose. But so you don't have to have an axe, you just have to have shoes. That's something that is not obvious to everybody, especially in the summertime, but that's a rule. And we provide axes, and we're fully insured. We provide a waiver also, and it's a good time. So far we've probably had a few hundred people through there just on Thursday nights for a couple of years. It's a crowd anywhere from 25 to 35 people on a given night.
Yeah, that's so cool. What else are you excited about? I saw that you're working on a downtown grocery deli.
I am. I'm excited about that. That's a project we've been thinking about for a while and working on the funding um, for moving to create a deli market downtown Michigan Avenue somewhere to be determined. I know, but I can't tell you. And at least that's we're probably a good year and a half, 2 years out from opening the doors. If I'm being honest with myself,
Yeah.
I have a name in mind for it that just came to me this weekend. Wellville, to be named after the Road to Wellville film.
Yeah.
I think is a fun name, but we're going to focus on some ready to eat foods, ready to go deli foods grown and created locally. Maybe some high quality comfort foods, both plant based and grass fed meat comfort foods. So things that the average Battle Creeker might eat, but made with local ingredients, supporting local farmers and producers right in our area.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm just going to flash up a little ticker here. I used up all the characters. These are all the things that you've been involved in the time, and not all of them by any stretch. But
I went to band camp too. I don't know if that's
yeah, it didn't make the cut, but but I guess my only point is that there's a heck of a lot. I'm not saying you ran all these things, although maybe you did. I don't know,
No.
but you tapped into a creative spirit in the community. I think it's fair to say. Would you say that's fair to say?
Oh, I think that's a nice thing to say about me, but yeah, sure. I certainly am not responsible for all those things, but I'm one of the people responsible for instigating some of those things.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say. Sometimes I've had ideas, but then other people made them much better.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the mark of a great leader. I'll use that word for you.
Solidarity.
It's solidarity. Hey, we used to have a rule back at the paper. I don't know if I ever told you this. Find somebody else besides Jeremy Andrews to call, for God's sake.
Really? Damn it.
Yeah. Because you were always getting quoted because we were involved in so much. And, you were an easy guy to get a hold of and always had quirky things to say. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit. I have dogs too. They may start barking.
I have a 5-year-old that was just in here at my feet. And she'll probably be back.
So tell folks a little bit about you grew up in Battle Creek.
Yes.
You graduated Lakeview High School.
I did.
And you studied abroad. And like so many young people who grow up in small cities or small towns, you didn't really have any intention of if I remember correctly, because I remember you telling me this in Brownstone.
I remember
our first conversation. I had no intention of coming back here. And
no, I didn't. When I left home in 1995, I was like, get me out of here. And I am never coming back besides like Christmas. And I kept up a pretty good ruse for quite a while, bouncing around. I went to school at Central Michigan and then lived in France a couple of different times studying abroad English there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came back from Europe, I decided not to go back to Central Michigan, but rather to explore my country a little bit because I felt like I had explored a lot of the world in Europe, but didn't even know my own country. And are you hearing me right now?
I am hearing you.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit of skippiness on my side. So I decided to move to Dayton, Tennessee and work at a Lazy Boy chair factory. And there I bought a Volkswagen bus and decided to move on to Reno, Nevada. And then I came back home for a little while and moved back to France and moved to Lansing and moved to Portland, Oregon. And I don't know, I was finding myself a little bit. I just didn't feel like doing the traditional thing. I wanted to see what was out there. For me, I didn't
Mhm.
really have any direction. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. My, amazingly useful degree in French wasn't really, choosing a path for me. So I did a lot of different jobs, learned a lot of different things along the way, and finally came home. I decided that I wanted to have a family, and it would really suck to have to take every vacation in Battle Creek. And so I thought I would move home so that I didn't have to vacation here.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with the place back in 2007 when I moved home.
Yeah. Well, and I joked earlier that you don't care about what people think. And it really was a joke because I know you well enough to know you care a lot about what people think. But I do think an accurate thing is irreverence. You just, why not? Because,
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you skipped a little bit there. You froze up a little bit. Well, we'll just soldier
you
through.
breaking up. You said something about me not caring about what people think.
Yeah, but the other side of that was I'm saying that's not really true, and I know that about you. But what I do think that you have is sort of an irreverence that allows you to try these things that
I think I picked up everything you said.
Geez,
And I heard the word irreverence. That's probably about right.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think that the traditional way of doing things is necessarily the only way. I don't believe in scoffing at people who do follow tradition.
Sure.
In fact, there's something to love about that. I love about people who are like that. I'm just not like that, and it's okay to be like me too. It's okay to take a road less traveled, or not follow the same traditional path that everyone else does. And I don't think that by any means that I've followed some crazy wild path in life either. I think I'm a kind of an average guy with
Uh-oh. Well, we seem to have lost Jeremy. Jeremy, if you're listening, come on back in. While we wait for Jeremy, I'm just going to read a quote that I think and I read this a long time ago. When I hear people say there's nothing to do in Battle Creek, and I used to say that, I think that's stupid. It's a self-perpetuating thing. They don't look around. They don't try. When you look, there's always something to do. He said that back in 2010. And I'm going to see if I can text him to get him to try to come in again. There he is.
Damn dial-up.
Hey, tomorrow there's a video conference that I'm hosting on getting digital access everywhere in the county. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I think I've got that in my inbox.
Yeah. Well, come on in.
We're breaking up a little bit, but I think we're better now.
Sometimes just leaving and coming back helps. So the things we learned in the pandemic era, right, with Zoom and StreamYard and other things. I was just reading your quote about how there's always something to do in Battle Creek. You just have to want to try.
Yeah. When people complain about nothing, there's nothing to do in here. Gosh, I find that there's never a break.
Yeah.
There's never not something to do. There's always so many options. You just have to look. I mean, I think that maybe the biggest thing is that we collectively have such a small marketing budget in Battle Creek that we don't tell each other enough and don't know enough about what we're up to. And a lot of it's underground-ish and kind of gritty things to do. But that's what I love about this place.
And I was just going to ask you, why did you fall in love with it? I mean, what is it about Battle Creek that has kept you? It's your hometown, so that's part of the answer, maybe. But
yeah, but when I moved back home in 2007, none of my people were here. I mean, some of my family were, but none of my friends lived here anymore, really. And I had to make all new friends. I had a few old friends, but a lot of my high school friends had moved away like me, and I met just the best people that I've met anywhere in the world, right here in my own hometown. Kind of, having been hiding from me in my mind.
Yeah. I think it's got
I've fallen in love with the people of this community for sure.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky to work in a lot of corners in this community around a lot of people, and I've gotten to know a lot of people. And my years in the post neighborhood with creating change are some of the most formative times of my life, and really helped drive my or like boost my drive of like doing community building work in general.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of a water. I remembered as sort of a watershed. I mean, here you are still engaged, but there was a lot of, I think, cool things that came out of that community organizing period in Battle Creek that you still see the legacies of, and a lot of things you're involved in, I think. Is that fair? Can you hear me?
I missed almost everything you just said. It was very break-uppy on my end. It looks like I have great signal here, but
yeah, I did too. I'm on Ethernet. I'm not even on wireless, so I'm not sure what the problem is. But and you lost me again. I can tell by the way you're looking at me.
I think people who grew up here in the 90s will get my reference, but I feel like I'm watching the Spice Channel right now.
Oh, geez. Well,
I'm only getting little glimpses of what you're saying.
So you can't hear me at all? Can't hear me?
A little bit.
Okay, let's try one more time. Let's talk about
maybe
books.
If you talk really slowly.
Maybe if I just text you.
Text me.
So let's talk about books. When I reached out to you in, I don't know, October, maybe September, about coming on this show, and one of the reasons I moved it from Thursday nights to Monday nights is so I could have you on, Jeremy. But there he goes again. Well, folks, this is part of the perils of virtual programming. It worked so well last week. 2 weeks ago, those of you tuned in saw that it didn't work so well. I apologize for that.
Maybe if we just keep stopping and starting, it's good when I come back.
Yeah, usually is. If I leave, though, then I have to set up the thing. Maybe I should.
That's okay.
When I reached out to you late last summer, early fall, talked about books we might talk about. And Jack Kerouac, On the Road, was the first thing that you said. And so we've talked a little bit since then, but what was it about that book that has had such a lasting impression on you?
Well, I remember the first recommendation I got for that book was from my good friend, college roommate, Greg Edwards, who had just finished hiking the Appalachian Trail. And he's like, "You got to read this book." And we had both studied abroad in different places. And when I did, I already had itchy feet and was already, had already studied abroad in France and came and lived in Tennessee. What I liked about it is it was this guy that grew up in a traditional kind of family. He grew up Catholic and grew up on the East Coast in a mill town in Massachusetts. And he went to the war and World War II and came back home and went to Columbia University. So not, I guess, that typical. He was, really intelligent, and he started hanging out with these kind of bohemian people in New York and started writing. He'd already been a writer, but he started writing more and more poetry and prose and hanging out with a bunch of weirdos, right? And sort of just like experiencing the characters of the world, and like really like his desire to like drink life was amazing. And I don't mean drink like alcohol, just like soak it up. Although he died of alcoholism, sadly, it was he was ready to take on any new adventure. And he met this person who was like, "Hey, why don't you hitchhike across country and meet me out meet me out in Denver and we'll go to San Francisco. And then he did, and he wrote about it, and hitchhiked all around the country and train hopped. And I can't say that I hitchhiked all around the country or train hopped. In fact, probably some of my own grandmother's worrying kept me from doing some of those things because I didn't want to make her ashamed in case I, died in some train fight, because I'm not going to win. But it did make me. It made me be okay with those eternal questions that you get in life. At that time it was, what are you majoring in, or do you have a girl? And then it becomes, are you going to get married, and you're going to have kids, and you're going to have 2 kids, and then where's your it's like a standard format that, like, it feels like us humans have, that we have to, like, we can't be comfortable with people being outside of the norm.
Right.
And I just did none of that. Felt like me at the time. Coincidentally, I live in kind of the suburbs now, so here I am, Jack. But it made me go and explore. It gave me the freedom to drive to Reno, Nevada with $100 in my pocket and know that I was going to make it. I might have to stop and, work somewhere to get there.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job lined up, but I was going to get one. And, and now I know that probably some of that has to do with a lot of, the privilege that I have, and the experiences that I had growing up and that I was lucky enough to have. But it also, you have to be able to just let go and try in order to do so. A lot of people, no matter what, aren't willing to leave home. They are. I don't know how many people I know that maybe haven't left Michigan, and I'm not shaming them. It just, I wouldn't know what to do with my life if I had never, gone to the unknown and then experienced it and figured out what, I don't know. I worked in car washes and hotels, and I've had shitty jobs and awesome ones, and about 37 of them, actually. It's quite a cool list of interesting things that I learned how to do, and some of them are helpful in life. Sometimes they save you a lot of money. I mean, I can wash a really mean car.
But like Jack Kerouac, he went home.
Yeah. He
went back to Lowell, that mill town, and you came back to Battle Creek, which is sort of a mill town.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I don't necessarily consider myself any sort of Kerouac prodigy, although during those years I read and wrote a whole lot, and I have totes of journals and prose and poetry. I thought I was just a really great writer. And I would read out loud in front of my friends after, late nights of drinking or whatever, and I'm early 20s. I can imagine how many people were like, is this guy really reading a poem again to me? But I was.
If I'd have known that, I'd have had you bring a poem on to read.
I would not have read it.
You would have done that? Well,
no, probably not. Maybe I would write a new one.
One, I just want to say thank you because you told me that. I had never read the book, never read it. And I thought it was absolutely beautifully written. I mean, and I did pull a paragraph, which I just think, it's just, kind of describes him, his mind, where he's at. And it's just a few words, but I woke up as the sun was reddening. And that was the one distinct time in my life, the strangest moment of all, when I didn't know who I was. I was far away from home, haunted and tired with travel, in a cheap hotel room I'd never seen, hearing the hiss of steam outside, the creak of old wood of the hotel, and the footsteps upstairs, and all the sad sounds. And I looked at the cracked high ceiling and really didn't know who I was for about 15 strange seconds. Your dog likes it. I wasn't scared. I was just somebody else, some stranger. And my whole life was a haunted life, the life of a ghost. I don't know. I just thought that sort of captured an element of his spirit, and just wanted to share a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we have this at Willard Library. You can get it on our.
You have a lot of them, actually. I borrowed quite a bit of Kerouac books from the library over the years.
Yeah, we do. And you also had me read Hunter Thompson, which I didn't like at all.
No, I think you have to be on drugs to like Hunter Thompson.
I guess so.
Which you're clearly not.
Clearly. Not at all.
I'm not anymore either.
So what are you reading these days?
Well, I'm currently reading Homo Deus by Noah Harari. And I finished reading Sapiens, which is the same author, A Brief History of Humankind. So those are nonfiction books. The first one that I read, I haven't read Homo Deus yet, just a couple of pages, but Sapiens is about kind of what differs Homo sapiens from Homo erectus. And really, at least what I got out of it was that our ability to create fiction and gather massive groups of people around fictions, whether they are religion or money or economic systems, and or those traditions that we were talking about that people just believe in, that you have to do this and then this and then this and then this. Yeah. And it's almost kind of freeing after reading it to realize how much of this world around me is just made up by other people, and none of it's really true. It's just all a big whole world of make believe, and we get to decide what our truth is, but somebody else's truth isn't necessarily mine. Yeah. And I'll argue that till the death.
Well, I mean, we're certainly living in a time where the evidence of that is just abundant all around us, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had objective versus subjective truth arguments this year. Multiple formats. Those are two that I'm reading, and another two that I read over the Christmas holiday time. A Man Called Ove, which is a fiction book by a Swedish dude named Friedrich Bachmann, I think. And that was a recommendation of my wife, and it's really good, real easy read about a crotchety old man who hates everything, and then it goes back and tells a story about why, what are the reasons why he's grumpy about this, that, and it's all his truths, and then it ends with him loving other humans again, but and then the other book that I just started rereading is Understanding Power by Noam Chomsky. And Noam Chomsky is a linguistics professor at MIT, but also like one of the foremost progressive thinkers of the past century. And he's probably in his 90s now.
Yeah, and still very prolific.
Yeah, and he doesn't, at least, I think probably maybe a conservative would laugh at this, but he doesn't seem very, left or right leaning. He's, or in fact, maybe he's really, really, really progressive, but he's not. He doesn't subscribe to the Democrat and Republican only mantra. And he refers to himself as an anarcho-syndicalist, and you can look that up on Wikipedia. There's a whole page. Yeah. But in that book, he talks a lot about the great work that we've done as a nation in Latin America, destroying their democracies over and over and over again for decades. And so if you want a good history book, it's kind of like people's history of the United States, but like really ultra focused.
Yeah. I may pick that up. I love Noam Chomsky. I'm not sure how you say it, but
and you have that at the library too.
Yeah. Oh, we have so much. But when we were preparing today, and your talk about subjective versus objective truth, I got excited because two books that I'm reading, that one has been around for more than 10 years, I think, but the one that I'm reading now is relatively recent, and I really just started. But The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. The backstory. This is a horror. He's a horror writer. And the backstory of this is these young Native kids or young adults. They were hunting and slaughtered this elk herd, and this entity is seeking them out for revenge. And so that's the backstory, and that's the thriller part of it. But along the way, he really deals with our history and how we've treated Native Americans and what that's done to their communities, to their relationships, to how they show up in the world. So it's been really And again, I really only started, but it's a good read, and I highly recommend it. The other one I just picked up actually over the weekend because I was with somebody and I didn't want to make her pick up a book that I'd already read, gone into a lot, and we were listening to it. And she had just picked up Cold Mountain by Charles Frazier, which I also read. 13 Moons, which I read. I'm rereading it right now, and it's just an extraordinary story of this kid, 12-year-old kid who was sold, basically indentured to run this trading post in Cherokee country, and his travels and his relationships, and it's really incredible. But the language is just amazing. It's a long read, though.
Those sound like two awesome recommendations.
They really are. And I wanted to read the quote. I like to read quotes from books. When this whole thing started, Jeremy, I used to read by myself, and I sang John Prine stories and
I love John Prine.
Yeah. I did that in a snowy day last March or April, not long after he died of COVID, all things. But and one of the characters in this book is Bear, who is a native, he calls him Chief, but Cherokee, who sort of adopts him as a father, because again, he's 12 years old and he's been sent out to this wilderness. This is one of the first person he runs into. But when you told me about subjective versus objective truth and how you were interested in that theme in that book, this thing just came to mind. It is tempting to look back at Bear's people from the perspective of this modern world and see them as changeless and pure, authentic people in ways impossible for anybody to be anymore. We need noble savages for our own purposes. Our happy imaginings about them and the pure world they occupy do us good when incoherent change overwhelms us. But even in those early days when I was first getting to know Bear and his people, I could see that change and brutal loss had been all they had experienced for 2 centuries. That's where the mic drop. Because we do have this myth.
And is this from 13 Moons or the Bear?
No, I'm sorry. That's from 13 Moons.
Okay.
13 Moons. So, why do you read? What do you get out of it?
That's a good question. So I guess simply I read to have cool shit to talk to about with people, so that I can have a good conversation with somebody about what I'm reading. It's kind of, I guess it's a maybe it's a but I also read. I think I find myself seeking things to read as kind of an escape, or not so much an escape as like a kick in the right direction. I'm often looking for a book that'll inspire me to do something different or do something new or make a change in my life, whatever it might be, because I think, because that's been the history of my reading, is that a lot of books have changed my life and changed the way that I've done things, or changed where I lived and what I decided to do for a living. And so that's why I read, is to keep changing my life.
Yeah. You said something earlier about if you're looking for truth, you got to look to fiction, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, it's the only truth, because this is all just made up. It's very freeing to think that. I think it is, to think that way. Otherwise, if this isn't all just made up, well, God, sometimes it's a damn nightmare then.
Yeah.
if this is all on purpose, well, then that would be a shame too. So I like to believe that it's all made up. I like that how Harari put that, because it makes a lot of sense to me in the way that I look at the world. And I, another thing that I like to say, we talked about earlier, is just because I look at the world in that way, doesn't mean that I think that you should look at the world in the way that I do.
Right.
I like that we can all look at the world in different ways. Just don't tread on me. You can tread on me a little bit.
Okay. I'm just putting up a few comments so you can see people are watching. That's actually somebody I grew up with in elementary school. So, and then high school before he moved away. But let's see.
I figured for sure no one would watch this one.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Vera.
There you go. See? And Vera, oh, I read Dune years ago. And
I have never read Dune. I'm not very great at sci-fi, fantasy genres.
Yeah. And here's another high school friend of mine. So yeah, I have my groupies too. They're just they're just spread out. And I apologize for Mike for calling you a groupie. I was being totally facetious there. I know that guy too.
Oh, I'm one of your groupies.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So we're up on a half an hour. Hey, and there, Kathy.
There's my friend.
Yeah.
She's one of the reasons I'm here right now.
Well, you guys worked at the foundation together.
Yeah,
a lifetime ago.
It does seem like it does seem like that. It's about 10 years ago.
Or seems like a lifetime to me too.
12.
And Kathy, she's reading Cast. It is a heavy read.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's a. I haven't gone all the way through it, but it's a comparison of it frames our. Kathy, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it frames our current racial issues in the context of a caste system, and how the caste system informs our version of subjective truth. as we're getting back to, it all comes back to that. But I think that's one of the reasons I like talking about books with you so much is that it really does, I think, challenge. It's an opportunity to just let your mind be open, right? Yeah, it's so cool, and to come across somebody who's really artful, that really writes really, really well. So, and Heart of the Buddhist Teachings by, I don't know how to say his name. I see it all the time. That one, I don't know.
I say Thich Nhat Hanh, but it's not Nan. It's an H, and I've always seen that as an N.
So
beginner mind, Zen mind, or something is one of his. That
yeah.
One of a funny story about books on Zen. I had a book by Alan Watts once called "What Is Zen," and my girlfriend at the time said something and made me really mad, and I remember throwing the book down on the ground, and it just seemed like such a silly thing to throw a book about Zen on the ground. I kept that book for a long time. It had a busted binding that reminded me of my non-Zen ways. I hadn't learned enough and I needed to read it again.
Yeah. I read a lot of these great books and great advice, and I always leave it saying I'm doing it all wrong, but I can't change. So
little by little.
Little by little.
Thank you so much. This has been fun.
Oh, it is fun, and I'll have you back on again too sometime.
Awesome. I won't. I won't mess up next time.
You didn't mess up at all. So things happen. All right. Have a good night, Jeremy.
Thanks, everybody.
And everybody, my guest next week, Sam Gray.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So tune back in next Monday, and then I'm looking for a guest for February 8th. So. And then we have our next history program is on the Michigan Central Railroad, or railroad station. So
that has new windows.
Yeah, it does, and a new sandstone on the lower part of the building. I think we did something there.
Nice.
I think, yeah. Last week we did Irving Park. If you didn't catch that, you might want to go back on.
Oh, I didn't check that out.
Yeah, and actually, there you can catch. Maybe not. Maybe I can't get there. Technology. Oh yeah. If you want to catch any of our videos, just go to YouTube and you can just search for Willard Library. Get to our channel. All of our programming, the history programs, the interviews. or that's the tiny URL. Anyway, thanks a lot, Jeremy. It's great seeing you, and have a great evening. And
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Take care.